Catherine. Welcome to my making adventure. This is a video podcast where I share all the crafty things that I've been up to lately. Today is July 7th, 2025, and I'm filming later in the evening than I typically do. My kids are in bed and it's still light, so hopefully the lighting's still good enough, although the sun's definitely setting. I live in the rural Midwest with my husband and our 3 daughters, and yeah, you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as my making adventure, the same as I am here on YouTube. Today, exciting, I have something more than knitting to share with you. Although I do feel like I have a ton of knitting to share with you. It's been, I think, over 3 weeks since I filmed, and a lot has gone on in that time. So today I'm wearing my newest finished object. I finished this yesterday and I've been wearing it all day today. And it is a hinterland dress. The pattern is by So Liberated, and this is the second time I've made this dress. The first time I made it was probably almost 2 years ago, and I made it with fabric that I got for free. So it was like kind of pieced together, just like a mock-up, like, can I actually sew myself a dress that I like? And after that first one, I knew right away that I wanted to make it again, that there were probably some changes I was gonna make, and I purchased this fabric a 1.5 years ago to make this dress. And then I just didn't make it for that long. So over the long weekend, over the 4th, I was like, I'm gonna do this. So Friday afternoon, I didn't have to work. And so we had done our celebrating on Thursday. So Friday afternoon, I started cutting out the pattern pieces, and I just kept going. Every moment I did the next step, and my family was really accommodating. I left my sewing machine out. I left the iron out in the dining room. My husband did a lot of the cooking over the weekend, and like, I have to turn my sewing machine on and off every time I get up when it's out on the desk. Like, literally, if I turn away, I have to turn it off because the baby kept crawling under and like playing with the foot pedal. But I did it. I finished sewing it Sunday afternoon, and I'm so excited. And like I said, today's Monday. I've been wearing it all day. So this is a hinterland dress. A few things that I did differently this time is, instead of doing buttons, I did snaps. So I had played with this idea and discussed on a different video, like, kind of my plans, but that the snaps I have been using for a baby garment I made that I knitted, they weren't working. And Emily of Oldenburn suggested this KAM or CAM brand of plastic snaps. And I was like reluctant to try it because, like, what if it was just user error and those other snaps worked just fine and I was the problem? But I just decided to do it. I just decided to get them and try them. And I've had the snaps for a while too. That wasn't necessarily what was holding me back these whole 1.5 years from making this. I think I've had the snaps for a couple months and they work really well. So I put snaps on the placket instead of buttonholes. I do like that I can more easily feed my baby with this style of dress. I didn't do the pattern. You can do like a full placket all the way down the skirt, but I didn't do that. That is the biggest change. I also, the first time I made the skirt really long. It's summer right now, so I made the skirt the length to pattern, which falls like just below my knees. And I find it to be pretty perfect. Maybe like 1 extra inch would be nice. Let's see what other modifications. The first time I sewed it, I extended the length of the bodice about 2 inches, and I kept that the same. One thing I meant to change, but I did not, is the neckline. This is like wide and deep for me. So I would add like 1/2 inch on each side of the neck, and then up to 1 inch or maybe even a little bit more at this middle part of the neckline. The back is okay. The back neckline is fine. It's meant to be an oversized fit. It's not meant to be like skin tight or anything. It's meant to be a little bit of an oversized, loosey fit, but I don't like so much. Since it's oversized, this neckline is too much if I'm like bending over and picking up toys or babies or anything like that. So it has pockets, and yeah, I was just so proud of myself because it just went really smoothly. I told myself I was gonna work on it all weekend, like it was gonna be my priority all weekend, but that it was okay if I didn't finish it. I could finish it later. And, but I did really have a goal of finishing it. But I didn't rush myself. Every step of the directions I did, even if it seemed pointless, you know, zigzagging all of the ends to finish them off, doing the ironing when it called for them. One part of the direction that was super cool was that for hemming, it suggested stitching a 1/4 inch from the edge of the fabric and using that as a guide to iron up the first fold of your hem, and then you would iron up like the 3/4 inch for the second part of the hem. It was different on the sleeves and on the skirt, but the second part of the hem, and then you would just stitch once all the way around. And I'd never done that before. I don't think I did that on my first hinterland either. But that was like brilliant. Like using the stitch as a guide for the ironing was like mind-blowing for me. You can tell I don't have a ton of sewing experience, but I was like, this is so cool. Another thing that I think is super cool is how you do this placket piece is just like, it's just crazy. Like you sew it this way and then you sew it that way, and then you do this thing and then you just like turn it inside out and it's like voila, finished edge, top stitch, beautiful. And I remember that being like really magical the first time I made it, and I was really looking forward to that again because I was like, I can't wait to see how that works. And it worked again. And I was like, wow, it's so cool. So I was like really excited for some of those things. The other thing is like, I cut the fabric out right. It's directional. The flowers are all the right way on all of the pieces I cut out, and I'm so proud of myself. There was one time where I was attaching the sleeve to the bodice, and I had a right side facing a wrong side, and I was like, put it under my sewing machine. I was like I even put the presser foot down. I was like about to start stitching it together. I already had it pinned and everything. I was like, something feels wrong. So I like stopped and I took it out of my machine. I was like kind of analyzing it before I decided to sew it. And I was like, oh my goodness, I need to turn the sleeve the other way. And was it annoying to have to repin it all? Absolutely. But it would have been so much more annoying to have to seam rip it and then repin it all. So there was like minimal seam ripping, minimal cutting errors. My sewing machine only got picky with me one time, and I was kind of hitting like a stopping point anyway. I was like, let's see if I can get it working right before I have to stop. But I didn't. But when I came back to it the next time, I was like, let me just try rethreading it, and that automatically solved it. So obviously I had threaded it a little bit wrong after refilling my bobbin because I was in a hurry. But when I gave myself time and I just came back to it, I was like, oh yeah, let's try that again. And boom, it worked. I checked the bobbin like 100 times, but I hadn't thought of checking the whole thread. So those were like the two biggest things were the sleeve that was pinned inside out, and the one time I threaded my machine and it wasn't working right. It was just like, wow. I was so excited that it went so smoothly. And I have a dress that I love and has pockets and it's good for the summer. I find this style of dress, I'll try to put a picture up for you of like the full thing. I can't stand up here and get you a full picture of it, but I find this style to be like really versatile. Like it's nice in the summer with some bicycle shorts underneath, and it's like perfect for that. But in the winter, I'll wear it with leggings under it, and I can throw on a sweater or a cardigan if I get cold. And like that is a good wardrobe staple for me. So naturally now I want to make like at least 2 more. But I have like bins of fabric over here. And so maybe I'll like make a patchwork one that looks good, or I'm not buying more fabric until I deal with some of the projects I have over here. And while I had my sewing machine out, I have been like making cutoffs for my daughter because she's like got holes in all the knees of her jeans and she didn't have shorts. So I hemmed up another pair of jean shorts for her for the summer. She doesn't like them as much though because they were a pair of skinny jeans and none of her shorts are tight like that. So she put them on and she's like, Mom, they're just like so tight. And I was like they hurt tight or they just feel tighter than your other ones? They just feel tighter than my other ones. And that's all she said all day. It's like, they just feel weird. So I think they fit her fine and she'll get used to it. It was just funny to me that she noticed that difference. So yeah, I felt really productive over the weekend making this hinterland dress, and I think I can link to the pattern page for this if you're interested. I know Amy from Noble Character Crafts made it with some stretch fabric without the button placket at all. If you like to then you lose the oversized fit. I'm not feeling like that good of a sewist at the moment to figure out how to do that. Like what size and all of the stitches with stretch stitches. I can do stretch stitches on my machine, but it stresses me out. So I'm really thrilled with this, and I'd like to have 1 or 2 more just like this at this point. So that's what I'm wearing. I have 2 other finished objects. The first one I'll share is the big one, and that is my stripe pipe. Ta-da! On the last video, I think I was just doing the bottom ribbing. Oops. And that's done now. I was able to do, like I talked about, 4 stripes of the red and then 3 of the other 2. And I did rip out and re-knit the collar with, I think, probably 10 more stitches than I had originally, if not 14 more stitches than I had before. I followed a 5 for 7 rate of increase along the sides. That's one that Andrea Mowry says she prefers. Like when I've listened to her podcast, she's always on a vertical pickup doing a 5 for 7 and then 1 for 1 on the horizontal. So that's what I ended up doing, which gave me a like slightly different than what the pattern called for, and significantly different than what I had tried the first time, which was different than what the pattern called for. So anyway, I'm thrilled. The sleeves also have this bonus stripe, and it only calls for 6 stripes in the sleeve, but I have a really good fit with this. I absolutely love it. Unfortunately, it is like 90-degree weather here now, so it's not the right time to finish a sweater, but I have a sweater finished. So I'm excited to be able to wear that this fall. And yeah, I'm thinking of possibly some projects with, or a project with the leftovers. I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do, but I have some things in my mind. The second finished object, that stripe pipe pattern is by Veronika Lindberg. My yarn is Cascade 220 non-superwash. And I used US 6 needles for the main body and then US 3 for all the ribbing. I did knit a little bit off gauge. Says I knit a size large. I don't know if that's accurate because I knit in one size and ripped it out and knit in the other. So I don't know what I ended up going with. My second finished object are my socks. These are my Frankie socks. They're knit with Knit Picks Felici in the colorway Frankie. And these are knit on a US 0, which was the first time I had knit myself a pair of socks on that tight of a gauge. So I'm hoping that I will enjoy wearing these, but once again, it's just like not the right time. So I'm anxious to cast on another pair of socks, but I want to have some time wearing these and making sure that I have a good fit before I cast on a second pair. The sport weight socks I finished a little bit, like I think I finished them in June, and it was still cold enough some mornings that I was putting them on, but we're not getting that weather now, and we probably won't until maybe the end of September. So I'm gonna put socks on hold and try to knit as many dishcloths this summer as I can. I did finish the dishcloth I showed you in the previous episode, and I finished another one, and I took pictures, so maybe I'll throw those up there. I've been doing like a jelly roll style dishcloth, and we've been enjoying that. I am like playing with different stitch counts to get like the right size of dishcloth for what we prefer. But that's been fun, and it's been like a quick and easy project. And I did purchase some double pointed needles and stick stitch stoppers on one end of them so that I can use them like straight needles, so that makes that like back and forth of that pattern a little bit easier than using like my long circulars like I had been before. So socks, dishcloths, sweater, dress, and I have only 2 whips to share with you and 1 hoping to cast on soon. We'll see how that goes. So my first whip is a project you've seen before. I am test knitting Ollie's Classic Cardigan by Hannah Graham, and I'm using Purl Soho's Good Wool in the Coastal Gray color, which is a little bit of a purpley gray, and I am almost done. I have finished the sleeves, which have a folded cuff, hem, cuff, and I finished the body, which has a folded hem as well. And I'm working the button band. So I think I'm almost halfway through the button band, and I have done the buttonholes. So I did 5 because that felt like the best fit to me. I think that I knit the body slightly longer than the pattern calls for before I realized it. Like maybe it's half an inch longer, which my daughter will benefit from that length, but yeah, she doesn't necessarily need it now, but she will probably use that length through the winter. This is my first time doing a double knit button band, and it's not as hard as I thought it was going to be. Doing an Italian cast on is probably the hardest part, and picking up all the stitches. Like, this is a child's sweater. It's like the size 4T, which is the 7th size of the pattern. So like, it is not that large of a sweater, and picking up all the stitches, like if it was an adult cardigan, whew, that would be a lot of work. Probably still worth doing because it looks so nice. One of the things that I was having a little bit of trouble with, actually first, because I knew it was a new technique and I didn't want to pick up all those stitches and then have something go wrong, I actually knit a button band onto my swatch. And I practiced the buttonhole on my swatch just to make sure that I had everything figured out well. So there's a tip. If you have to try something new and you can try it on your swatch first, do that. That was, I think I know I saw somebody else do that with some technique. I'm not remembering who or what, but that's why I thought of it. But I didn't like the way that my stitches, my first stitch of every repeat was loose. And I knew that when I was knitting it, but it didn't block out. at least not without like a little bit more effort. So that was still a problem as I've been knitting. It's getting dark. I hope you can still see. Like I could still tell sometimes, like, let me see if I can hold it up for you. That first stitch, it gets a little bit loose because you slip it when you come back and then you turn your work and you immediately knit it. And it's just a little bit loose. So what I've been doing is before I start, I'm loosening all of the knit stitches in my first, or like 3 or 4 of the knit stitches on the right side of the button band. Half of them are knit stitches and half of them are slipped stitches. So I'm going and I'm like redistributing that extra that's on that first stitch all the way across before I knit and purl, which is making me go slower. But this button band edge is so much nicer than on my swatch. And I haven't even blocked it yet. So I'm really pleased with that. It's gonna have a little bit of a V-neck, but nothing extreme. I think it's just meets right there. And I'm really, really excited to finish it. Just a lot of double knitting left. But like I didn't work on this very much over the weekend because I was sewing this. So I think that this will get finished this week. The test knit is coming to a close, and I'm sure Hannah's getting excited to release the pattern for the fall because it's super exciting and so cute. And I think she's gonna release it in August so that you could even knit it for your child for the fall. Pretty much I'm the slowest knitter in the test group. So if you don't have as much going on in your life as I have had going on in mine, you should have no problem knitting it in 3 or 4 weeks if you have a kid that you'd like to knit that for. All right, my new cast on is on the floor, so pardon me. But with everybody talking about Christmas in July knit-alongs, I know Kirsty Knits and Sews is doing one on Ravelry. Carla Knits, I think she's calling hers a Merry Make-Along, is also doing one on Ravelry. And then Rose Opal Knits, Daphne and Erica have one on their Discord channel. I decided that that was like my call to get back on figuring out how to knit stockings. Because if you don't know, I had hoped this year to knit 5 stockings, 1 for each of my children. And I've knit 2, but neither of them turned out like the way I was really happy with them. So I set them aside and I ignored them and I knit other things for a while, and I've come back to them. So this is like my extra yarn and finished stockings bundle. And this is what I'm actually working with. I decided to pick out a new pattern and try something different. So I'm still using the same yarn, but I found a different pattern. And this is a bundle. It was a bundle. Christmas stocking collection from Knit Purl Hunter. And it was a collection of 6 stockings, like 6 different stocking motifs, and they're all laid out for you. The one I had been using before was like a mix and match sort of thing. And I had spent a lot of time making decisions and writing out the color work chart, and then it just wasn't turning out. And I was feeling really disappointed. But that pattern had been free. So I bought a paid for pattern that had the charts for each stocking like all laid out. Could you do some mix and match? Probably. But I just decided to start this one how it is. And it's different. It's toe up and it uses 1 size smaller needle. So I was like, ooh, I was feeling like my 8s were too big. This is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes worsted. And so I was excited to try them on US 7s, which I think is a 4.5 millimeter. The other issue I'd been having was with my color work. I had done one on Magic Loop, and it just, you know, color work is hard to keep consistent over Magic Loop turns. I have no problem with regular knitting over Magic Loop, but with stranded color work, it was problematic. And I had tried on a 16-inch US 8 circular, but I didn't want to have to buy another circular needle. I just want to be able to use what I have. So I'm doing like a traveling loop method with my US 7s on a long cord. And I'm using 3 colors, Blossom Heather, Garnet Heather is the dark red, and then Cloud is the off-white. So this is the toe. It starts toe up, and then you change your beginning of a round so the toe will sit like this, I think, on the stocking. And yeah, I am just starting the color work chart. It has a few stripes, and then there's a little bit of a chart for the foot, and then there's like a main design on the leg after you do the heel. And it's a short row heel, which on my other pattern I had tried had an afterthought heel, and I wasn't really feeling comfortable with that. So I had like modified it again to be a short row heel and kind of done a lot of the labor myself to make that work. But this is written into the pattern as just a regular short row heel, not an afterthought. A lot of the stocking patterns have afterthought heels, and that that was too much for me. Short row heels are still kind of a new technique, but it's not like the cutting into your work afterwards. So I felt like this was easier, and I'm happy so far with how it's going. It is going to be a little bit tricky to follow the pattern with a traveling loop. So I'm probably going to have to figure out where and how to put in some stitch markers to help me with that. But this first part of the foot is mostly like there's 3 rows that are like a little bit detailed, but then mostly it's kind of like blobs. So for the leg of the foot, I might have to do something different, but for this, I think I'll be okay. And I think I've just done 1 row of the stranded color work. So this is a focus, like it takes a lot of my focus. Hard to do while my kids are playing. Kind of need time to myself to focus on this, but I'm gonna be working on this and joining those 3 make-alongs so that I keep myself motivated to work on this. This is for my 5-year-old. Okay. I feel like it's getting too dark, but I'm gonna show you some things that I've gotten. So first of all, I was gonna show you hopefully my next cast on, but I'm gonna save that. The yarn is probably too dark for you to see that, and I just have a swatch. So I'm not including that today. However, I went on a trip to visit my family who live in northern Minnesota. And while I was there, I visited a newish yarn shop up there called the Yarn Cabin, and I purchased some yarn. My husband and I discussed, like, I've never been to a yarn shop before, and I knew I would want to spend a lot of money, and we're on a budget, right? So I was like, can I just get 1 skein? Like, I want to go to the yarn shop. I feel like it's rude to go and not spend any money. Can I please get like 1 skein of yarn and a few notions? Well, can we make that work within our budget? And so we agreed that that would be like, I could do that. So I thought that I might look for something that would sort of have a similar feel to this skein that I had won for the Scrappy Make Along from Wyoming Knits. And I took a picture, and I was like thinking about that picture. And I picked this, which is called Coffee House. And this is dyed by the yarn shop owner. So her company is called Pearls and Pines. And it's just so pretty. It has a little bit of pink, but it's coffee colored, and it has some speckles, and I'm just so excited. I think it's gonna look beautiful. But it was hard to choose. There was lots of really, really beautiful yarn there. But there was a nice little sitting area, and my husband and kids like sat there and let me look. It was not a huge shop, but it was just so sweet to be able to go. And then I bought this little yarn cabin progress keeper. That's like her little, you know, the yarn cabin. And I just got some other ring markers. So, yeah, I had a really nice time visiting the shop, and I think that's my receipt. I wanted to make sure to show you my little treasures. On the same line of new yarn, Dawn from, is it a Crafty Dawn, had offered to send me her wool yarn because she is allergic to wool. So she had acquired some wool before finding out that it wasn't going to work for her. So she offered to mail it to me, and I said, yes, I accept donations. And that was really sweet of her. So the first thing she sent were 2 skeins of sock yarn. This one is I should just take it out of the bag, sorry. This is an opal sock yarn. And this one is called Marathon. I love the bright colors in that. That's gonna be so fun to knit up. This one will be absolutely stunning as well. And then this skein is just merino, but it's a lace weight, a 50-gram lace weight skein of merino from Knit Picks called Shadow. And 2 skeins of this wool blend from Hobie. It's 80% acrylic, 20% wool, and it's a worsted weight. So has 183 yards per skein. There's 2 of those. So yeah, I'm excited to find uses and projects for all of this beautiful yarn. I really am. I can't wait. I have, I'm saving different fingering weight groups. I thought Amy Shear's new pattern, the Relax Tee, will look really good with some stripes. I think that Stephanie of Edible Thoughts Makes has already made one with stripes. And so that's probably what made me think of it. But so saving my fingering weight skeins until I get a few that I can use together to make a Relax Tee with them. That's on the long-term project thoughts. Probably for next year. That's my new yarn. Hopefully it's not too dark that I can just briefly discuss some of my life happenings in the last 3 weeks. One big thing is, I think I shared last time that my daughter was sick. She remained sick for a while, and it took multiple trips to the doctor to figure out that she didn't just have strep throat, that she had mono as well. And the first time we took her to the doctor, we got antibiotics for strep throat, and she did not immediately get better. It actually took 5 days, I think, and then her fever went away, but then 2 days later it came back, and she was much more sick than she had been before. And we went back to the doctor, and they tried a different antibiotic and some steroids and different things to try to help her. And they wanted to see her again in a couple days because of how sick she was. I mean, really, there were several different things that the doctor saw when she was being seen, and they were like, I want to see her back in a couple days to make sure she's doing better. Well, actually, when we went back in a couple days, she wasn't any better. I don't know that she was worse, except that it was day 3 then of being that ill. And the doctor had several concerns related to that and sent us to a children's hospital just to get some extra testing. And all of that came back good, which we were really grateful for. And she was able to just like go and get tested and come home all in the same day. But it was really stressful, and it was like 3 days after that. So like 6 days at least of being really, really ill. Like can't breathe except with her mouth open. Breathing was taking a lot of her energy. She wasn't wanting to play or do anything. But she did then start to get a little better, and we still had to follow up with her doctor. And when her doctor saw her again, she was like, oh good, she's like, I can just tell she's already better. So that was a relief. Like we knew she was better, but then the doctor was reassured by the tests that we had done and everything else, so we were fine. But all of that delayed our travel plans. And so when we knew she was getting better, we put our plans into place, and we made kind of like a rapid trip. Like I had taken time off work. We had made arrangements with my husband's business, with the business he's running, kind of got everything figured out. I had family visiting that I wanted to see, and so I wanted to visit at the same time as them. And so we made like a crazy trip, and we drove. I need to sneeze. Let me have a drink of water. And we drove and we made a crazy trip, and we had a great time. The first day after we got there, we visited Itasca State Park, which is somewhat local to where my family is. And that's where the headwaters of the Mississippi River is. And it was like this, essentially for me, it was like a family reunion at the state park. And it was really great fun for my kids, really great fun for me. Just like, that was like a wonderful day. The baby cooperated through the whole day. Just like everything went great. The next day was like super calm. We like hung out with my mom, and we just relaxed, recovered from the crazy day the day before. Then the next day I did like all the things I wanted to do while we were there. We went to the yarn store, we went to a thrift store. It's a bigger town than where we live, so like there's more things that we could go and do, like a better thrift store. And they had really cheap books, so I grabbed a bunch of books. Yeah, super awesome time, but busy that next day. And we were actually planning on leaving in the afternoon of the following day. So we were staying with my mom Friday night, and I remember like she was saying as we were like going to bed that they were forecasting some bad weather, and she hoped that it didn't come to anything because she still has young kids too at home, and she is like, I don't want to have to wake them up to have them go to the basement in the middle of the night. And I kind of like blew her off because I don't know, I hadn't been paying attention to the weather, but it really did come that we all needed to go to the basement in the night. And the tornado warning, there was a tornado warning issued for the area, and it was a good thing that we were all in the basement, because while I don't think that there was a tornado that hit her house, the winds were so strong that it like basically mutilated the entire community. This is like the Northwoods area of Minnesota, so everything is like forested, and her house had, I think, 3 or 4 trees on it when we heard them fall. I want to say like when we woke up in the morning, but we were up because of the tornado warning. We were all in the basement trying to stay calm through the storm. We heard glass breaking. We could hear and feel the trees falling. But we didn't hear a tornado. And all the trees were like fallen. Almost all were falling the same direction. Some of the trees did significant damage to her house. One tree was on her car, but it did very minimal damage. However, My mom doesn't like have any tools for taking care of that kind of thing. And this is like the Northwoods. These aren't like, when I talk about like trees falling, I live in the plains now. So like when people think about trees, they think about trees. But these are like trees, okay? These are like trees. Luckily, some of the men from the neighborhood came and helped clean up her yard that morning, and we were able to drive our car away in the afternoon as planned. Which, I mean, there was no power. Cell service was limited. It was 95 degrees, which in northern Minnesota is like, so heat advisory. Not everybody has air conditioning, but now we're talking about like, you don't even have running water because of the electricity, and like people run their water from a pump, a well. And so you have like limited water, no electricity, super, super hot, and like nothing is open. The whole town was shut down because nobody had power or anything. It was like nothing I've ever seen. So we talked to my mom into letting me bring my two sisters home with us for a week. And so that kept us really, really busy, but we had a really, really good time. And it allowed my mom like some space to call insurance, call a roofer, call a contractor, call a plumber, all, you know, like try to get all of the pieces in place to getting the house repaired, even though she knew it was gonna be months before things could actually get done because the whole community was devastated. I've seen pictures on social media from it, and it's just crazy. I mean, we feel so blessed that it wasn't a tornado, because a tornado probably would have flattened the whole house. And I mean, the house was standing with trees on it. But I know that like from that same storm, there were multiple tornadoes that hit North Dakota that caused significant damage. But in her town, I think they clocked the wind at 120 miles per hour. And these are like trees that have been standing. I mean, everybody lost almost all of their trees. So, I mean, 100-year-old trees probably, right? And yeah, it's just, wow. So that was a pretty big deal. And then having my sisters here for a week was, you know, extra work. It was a huge blessing, and like, why didn't I ever think of doing that before? We will definitely be doing that again under better circumstances, because that was so fun for everyone. But like, wow, that was June. And it was crazy. And we were just sort of settling back into whatever summer normal looks like, because summer normal looks like last week was normal-ish, but it was also the holiday. And this week, my 5-year-old started her swimming lessons for the next 2 weeks. We had that going on right in the middle of the baby's nap. Who scheduled that? Oh, it was me. But you know, when we scheduled it 3 months ago, I didn't know it would be right in the middle of the baby's nap, or of her first nap of the day. So figuring all that out, that's summer normal, I guess. Yeah, so that's my life update. I have obviously still found time to knit and make, and Emily Curtis talks about like sometimes she's on Gently Chaotic Knits. She shared some, like, if life is like this much stressful, then you like can match your making to help relieve your stress. But if life is like this much stressful, then you actually like reduce your making, because like you don't even have the energy to use your de-stressor techniques, I guess. So apparently for me, it's been this stressful because I've matched my making with it, and I've done lots of knitting and some sewing, and I've had the energy for that. So I feel blessed that like, you know, nobody was injured. We had lots of family and friends that helped in the storm cleanup. And we were able to just, you know, keep on with life and know that it would be okay. So yeah, I think that is all of my update for today. Thank you for joining me. God bless.